looked like it woke him up. And then when I saw Canelo, what I noticed about him was that brother looked a lot different tonight than he did yesterday.
It's a lot to say, and I guess I'm going to go along with you at this, but I do want to first say, before I forget it, I got to take my hat off to Canelo. He's one of the most gracious champions that the sport is ever going to see. He bowed out like a true champion should. He made no excuses. He just told it like it was, and that gives me even more love and respect for Canelo.
How you feeling right now compared to how you were feeling back then when you won that fight?
I feel the same, you know, because it wasn't a sense of me shocking the world. It was a sense of me doing what I said I was going to do, you know, so it might have been a shock to a lot of people, you know, around, but it wasn't a shock to me, so I'm cool.
I know I'm smaller than Canelo. I know I'm smaller than these guys.
But Canelo's pretty short too. Canelo's
Yeah,
your height too.
we're the same height. We're the same height.
Exactly, for a 68 pounder. But he is a freaking boulder. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a thick kid.
A lot of people are like, man, you can't beat him. Then I'm looking at him and I'm watching him. I'm like, man, I can beat this dude.
Crawford himself says it loud and clear. He has shut down every mouth that doubted him, every voice that said he couldn't beat Canelo. No excuses, no hype, just proof in the ring. From the moment he stepped into Las Vegas, Crawford wasn't just fighting for a win, he was silencing critics, cementing his legacy, and showing the world exactly who the pound-for-pound king is.
You know, it shocked him tremendously, you know, given the fact that his coach said that, you know, he felt like I couldn't hurt Canelo with anything, and Canelo can hurt me with everything. So I think, you know, they put that in his head, and then when he got in there, he was like, whoa. You know, they lied to me. This dude can punch.
Stephen A. Smith, who has been observing Crawford's hunger for years, long before this fight even came true, at last witnessed it play out on the biggest stage. Stephen A. claims Saturday night in Las Vegas was a proving ground rather than simply another fight. Every promise Crawford had over the years transformed every assertion of greatness into irrefutable evidence under the harsh lights.
Terence Crawford's part, and it was definitely a legacy fight, something he had told me. He had been telling me for the last 2 years. He had one time I was at a UFC event, Molly and Cam, at the Sphere, and he was down there ringside and had somebody summon me down ringside just to come and talk to him and emphasize how badly he wanted the Canelo fight. And I was worried about him moving up, you know, 3 weight classes, because he was 147 at the fight. It was before he fought Madrimov. And to watch him do what he did Saturday night against Canelo, showing that he was the superior boxer, that he could take a punch, that he could certainly give it, that he was strong. I can't say enough about him. As far as I'm concerned, pound for pound, Terence Crawford is the best on the planet as we speak right now.
Crawford ascended in legacy rather than in weight. Against one of the greatest celebrities in the sport, he showed a rare mix of grace, accuracy, and power. Every jab, every counter, every exchange bore the quiet confidence of a guy who had been getting ready for this particular instant all his life. He did not hesitate when the moment came either. He grabbed it, allowing little space for doubt. Stephen A. remembered everyone why boxing's greatest evenings still seemed larger than life when he painted the scene, but his attention soon moved to the man who grabbed the stage.
Terence Crawford won on a judges card 116-112, 115-113, and 115-113. Unanimous decision in favor of Terence Crawford. We have to have a different conversation to those out there. And Sean, my producer, if you could do me a favor, fix these lines so I can make sure I see everybody in this completion, okay? Because it's a little bit gobbled up on the screen. Let me tell y'all something about Terence Crawford. This is the year 2025. He is the best boxer on the planet Earth. Terence Crawford is pound for pound the #1 fighter on the planet Earth. It's secured with this win. Now, that doesn't mean that if he stayed at the super middleweight division that he'd end up beating somebody like the Mexican monster, David Benavidez. We ain't losing our damn minds here. It's not an accident that Canelo hasn't fought that man as of yet, because this man is something special, and he's a natural super middleweight that's having to fight at light heavyweight because he can't get anybody at the super middleweight or the middleweight division to fight him. But I'm talking about in terms of your skill set, what you bring to the table, and moving up essentially 3 weight divisions.
Crawford was not moved by the hoopla, the audience, or the spectacle. He was supposed to run, to live, to act like a smaller man. He rose tall and gave a brilliant lesson instead. Smith presented it beautifully. The event witnessed was among the best performances ever performed in Las Vegas, rather than only an upset. The night was touted as Canelo's show, but it finished as Crawford's coronation. By the time Stephen A. reached the last rounds of the bout, he could sense the story had changed. Crawford was pulling away, not clinging.
In this 4-belt era that we're living in boxing, to be a guy that is a undisputed champion, claiming all the damn belts in 3 weight classes, 140 pounds, 147 pounds, and now 168 pounds. What can you say? Terence Crawford is 42-0 with 31 knockouts. He is undefeated. He is unblemished. This is who we're talking about when we're talking about Terence Crawford. And now the question really has to be, where does he sit as an all-time great? He's clearly a future Hall of Famer. He's the reigning, defending now super middleweight champion of the world at 168 pounds.
He outclassed a man who had dominated 168 for years by adding distance, the jab, and daring exchanges throughout round by round. Though Canelo had never lost at this weight, Crawford crushed him in his first fight. Stephen A. distilled it perfectly. What appeared impossible became indisputable. On the biggest stage, the underdog not only rose, but also ruled. Crawford not only won those last rounds, but also busted Canelo's sense of invincibility. Then came the cold, harsh, and impossible to ignore numbers. Stephen A. laid them out, each statistic recounting the tale of a master at labor.
Hard to imagine him stepping down. I mean, he can't stand the Charlos, so it's hard to imagine him stepping down to fight Jamal Charlo at 154. Maybe he'll fight Jamel at 168, but he's had some issues and hasn't really been in the ring much, so who's to say that Terence Crawford wouldn't beat him? He'd probably be favored to beat him. Who else is he gonna fight? He's not talking about retiring, but who else is he gonna fight? That's a legitimate question.
When a legendary trainer like Abel Sanchez speaks, the boxing world stops and listens, and his take on Crawford's performance was outstanding.
Him soundly, you know?
No, he wasn't flawless. He was exceptional. What a great fight, man. All props to Terence and Bomac. You know what? They did what they needed to do to prepare for a guy that hasn't really fought anybody with that kind of style, one, and with that kind of IQ in the ring. He showed us last night that he's a Hall of Famer for sure. I'm so happy for him, really. I'm so happy for his team because I've been in that position before, and when you get to that point and you win those big fights, it's exhilarating because you know you did the work. So I'm really happy for him. He did great. I'm not even going to say that Canelo had a bad night because no matter what Canelo would have showed up, that Terence Crawford would have beat anybody in the ring that night.
He didn't see mistakes. He saw mastery. Sanchez acknowledged a fighter at the Hall of Fame level when he assessed how Crawford prepared for each punch he threw. This was not about Canelo coming up short. It was Crawford showing up big and exceeding expectations with the world watching. When a guy who has created champions Sanchez uses that type of language, you understand it'll be a night that goes down in history. It was not just a payday for Crawford. It was a statement. But he didn't stop there.
Great fight last night, and Canelo was the best Canelo could be that last night. I would hate to think what kind of, and I don't think it's fair to think about when Golovkin fight him if Crawford would have fought him. Crawford fought a great fight last night and he won, and I thought the scores were a little tighter than they should have been. I thought Crawford had more rounds, but look, props to both guys. It's good for our sport.
Sanchez provided layers of analysis that highlighted he was not just pitching a decision. Crawford was dominant. In fact, Sanchez said later that even when Canelo was at his best, he couldn't do anything with Crawford. And as Sanchez said, the scorecards don't tell the story of the gap Crawford created. That kind of analysis sheds layers of trash talk and excuses. It wasn't just a headline, it was a Marine-level moment for the sport. One had to see to have an appreciation for the entire sport. However, what truly surprised Shiraz was the physicality of Crawford's performance. He was expecting skill, not brute strength and brute control.
What surprised you the most by Crawford, would you say?
You know what surprised me the most? Him holding his feet and still dominating. Being strong enough to exchange in the clinches and manhandling Canelo a bit and turning him around like it was nothing. Yeah, that surprised me a lot.
When Crawford was handling exchanges aggressively face-to-face, turning Canelo in a clinch, and asserting himself in a weight class where everybody thought he would be too big, he made a significant impact in boxing. This was not just finesse, it was power, it was grit, and it was authority. Shiraz's amazement became representative of so many fans who felt it in real time. Crawford seemed untouchable in every attacking aspect of boxing. That was when the fight became historic, not only in the fight entertainment, but also changed the definition of what is pound-for-pound greatness. Duke McKenzie looked like a man who knows what the weight of world titles feels like, while also showing that Crawford's was greater than even he had ever experienced. Just watching him, he conveyed the astonishment of someone who has experienced greatness.
I mean, what you witnessed last night was just, you know what, there are really not enough superlatives, there are not enough words that you can say what Terence Crawford has just achieved in boxing. It's unheard of. You know what? Another way I'd like to describe it is, I've been a world champion, as you know, and I've been a 3-division world champion, but I've only won one of the belts. I don't know what it is to be undisputed. I don't know that feeling. Do you understand? What he did last night is unbelievable. He's a 3-time undisputed world champion, and he's beaten the best of the best.
To him, this wasn't just an appreciation for greatness or a champion's moment. This was history that would eventually be buried and stone carved into time. McKenzie became a multi-division world champion himself, and he had to acknowledge that Crawford was on a level that could not be touched. This respect from a fighter and analyst who understands the journey made the victory even more significant. McKenzie would acknowledge Crawford as having a generation ability.
For me, there were red flags way before this fight, not way before the fight, you know, in the build up to this fight. Canelo's body language in the run up to this fight, you know, he turned up in Vegas in his stretch limo, in his Armani suit. He's had his kids and his wife in the back of the car, and he's got out and he's strolling around like he owns the gaff. Now, that all that signified to me was a very comfortable man. He was too comfortable. And Terence Crawford just kept it real from the outset. Tracksuit, no nonsense, went there to win, said what he was going to do, told the world what he was going to do.
Headshots, jabs, precision. Crawford surpassed Canelo in every aspect by outlanding, outthinking, and outclassing in a fashion. Body shots could not slow him. Relentless pressure couldn't break him. Unchallenged, he walked into the ring with assurance and left no opportunity for argument. Stephen A. Smith underlined what the numbers showed. Domination encased in calm, not only punches. Crawford justified every ounce of confidence he carried into the battle that night, not just winning. The figures didn't just show his triumph, they also proved that his greatness is indubitable.
You listening? That's all I care about. That's my definition of cheers. And then you have some of these fools out here, particularly folks from my community, excoriating me because, oh my Lord, you know, I was celebrating Charlie Kirk. No, I was not. Don't know the man, never watched what he said before his political assassination last week. Never, I didn't know anything about what he had said. My point is, now that I do, although many people might find it offensive from different ethnic backgrounds, that's not my point when I was speaking what I said the other day. What I was saying was, he was murdered. Streamed live in front of all of our faces. And no matter what you think or what you feel about what he has said or what his ideology is or what his position may be, that ain't the damn time to be bringing that stuff up. When a man is murdered in front of his wife and children. That's all I was saying. And I don't take back what I said one iota. And I'll leave it at that. People will lie and misrepresent my positions all the time. That's why I have a radio show. That's why I'm on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 82. That's why I'm debuting on POTUS Radio this Wednesday night from 6 to 8 p.m. on Sirius XM, Channel 124, POTUS Radio, which is a political channel because I'm going to have a weekly show on that. I don't give a damn about criticism and all of that stuff.
Smith said Crawford's name in boxing history, and the facts were speaking louder than any judgment. Perfect, unquestionably. In 3 weight categories, Crawford had overcome every obstacle thrown at him from 140 to 147 and is now 168 pounds.
Did a great job. I thought it was close. I had Canelo ahead in the early going, but I thought Crawford did an amazing job closing that fight down in the last few rounds, where he really started to back the supposed bigger guy up, although for me, they looked about the same size. But that was a brilliant performance, and what can you say? I mean, you got to give him his credit. He created a lot of history. He dreamt this fight. He willed it to happen. A lot of people, not me, but a lot of people laughed at him, said forget about it, no chance against a bigger guy like that. But he showed his greatness.
Dan Rafael's comments hit the nail on the head. This was greatness achieved, not handed out, not luck, not hype. And he went even further, claiming something audacious in all of Canelo's illustrious, lengthy career. It is uncommon to see a man force him backward, set the tempo, and steal the momentum. Crawford seized charge and ensured everyone understood how amazing that was. He didn't merely win.
I think it took him a little while to figure out that, you know what, he doesn't hit as hard as some people were saying, and that I can get in and out, and I'm going to be able to stalk him and walk him down a little bit. And he had Canelo extremely frustrated. And so I guess I was a little surprised he was able to do it, especially in those last couple of rounds. But he definitely was the guy that was going forward and back in. I mean, I've been watching Canelo for his entire career as a known fighter. This is my 24th Canelo Alvarez fight in person. I can't say that against anybody, including big punchers like Triple G and Kovalev and people like that saw him get forced back. That's not normal for a fight with Canelo Alvarez.
But Rafael did not disregard the other side. He also confirmed what many had been saying. Canelo could be showing understated symptoms of decline. Still, Crawford's show of skill, composure, and ring awareness cemented him as the one in charge, therefore enthralling spectators and commentators as well.
And this is not a disrespect to Canelo, because everybody who has ever read me, followed me, listened to me knows I love Canelo. I think he's one of the greats of all time. I think you can make a really good argument that he's the greatest Mexican of all time, even more than Chavez. That said, he is in decline. He's been in decline for the last few years. He hasn't been what we've seen him at his best since he beat Caleb Plant. You know, that Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Sanders time frame. And, you know, even though he's winning fights, you know, the knockouts haven't happened. He's gotten tired in the later part of the fights. And it's just common. It's you know, it's the oldest saying in boxing, Father Time is undefeated. This is a man who has now 532 professional rounds. He may be younger in terms of his age at 35 compared to Terence Crawford at age 37. But Terence Crawford, you know, going into this fight at 245 rounds, now he's at, 257. He's got basically half the number of rounds that Canelo does. And Canelo has had a ton of those rounds have been grueling and grinding and punishing. Certainly a lot more of those hard rounds than Terence Crawford's had. So it just stands to reason, yeah, you get to be that age in boxing, you're going to start to slow down. Now, all that said, it wasn't like he got blown out. It's like he didn't compete. It was a close fight. I mean, you know, around here, around there, he wins the fight. So, you know, yes, is he in decline? 100%. Is he still very capable of beating, you know, good quality fighters? Yes, but Terence Crawford is obviously a special, you know, let's use the word that I hate, but I'll use it, generational kind of fighter.
Just like that, Crawford versus Canelo has finally come to an end, and what a conclusion it will be for boxing fans all around the world. Terence Crawford gave all supporters a reason as to why many consider him to be one of the pound-for-pound best. From the way he prepared to the way he carried out that execution in the ring, Crawford did not just win, he won by dominating. And Canelo, like always, left it all in the ring, establishing why he is one of the toughest competitors in the sport. But now the debate begins. Did Crawford completely outclass Canelo, or were there moments where Canelo pushed him? What does this mean for Crawford's legacy? Has he cemented himself as a true all-time great? Could we see a rematch? And if so, what would Canelo need to do differently to even the score? And most importantly, who should be Crawford's next challenge to keep making history? We want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the discussion going and see what the boxing community thinks about this legendary matchup. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay on top of all the biggest fights, post-fight reactions, and expert analysis, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.